Hello, today we're going to talk about my favorite subject and what got all this started for me. The words that you saw are, there's no truer words. This is definitely where we need to be. All right, here's not there, but here's a picture of me 10 years ago on the last big vacation that my wife and I took. After that, I didn't have the energy or the ability to take another one. This one right here is the one that we took back in April. That's when I first started using these products. I started on the cornerstone of this product. There's been a marked improvement after about 2 months. It took approximately 2 months before I got to feeling any better. What got me started on this was a video that I saw from Dave MacArthur. What I'd like to do is show you a little clip.
And, I call it bringing heaven to earth. When your health is down here, it does not feel like heaven. It feels like a living hell is what it feels like. But as soon as your health starts to get better, and I'm talking about overall health, wellness, well-being, your mental clarity, the mental energy, along with the physical as well, wellness. And things start to change, your attitude changes, and it just impacts everything that you do. And I started attracting more and more good things into my life. And my life just kept getting better and better and better. And it's like heaven on earth now. So I call it bringing heaven to earth, sharing this message with people. And we just want to help get as many people up here as we can through educating and giving the exposure, role modeling, and just being there to support people. So this is Jimmy Smith. I've known Jimmy for coming up on 14 years. He's 80 here and he's 90 here. He looks younger at 90, doesn't he, than he did at 80? Well, he is. His cells are younger, not just on the outside, throughout his entire body. And we're going to go into the science of that and how that is duplicated and why it's duplicated. So let's just take a look at a human cell here. And the middle of every cell is called the nucleus. And there was something discovered called a telomere back in the 1930s. They didn't even know the role that they played. They just knew something was going on the ends of the chromosomes. Well, the telomere is actually protecting the DNA inside the chromosome. So this is your chromosomes. They sit in the middle of every cell, the nucleus, and they contain the software that runs each and every cell independently. And it's really the DNA is the software that runs the cells. Well, where the colors come together, that's called a nucleic bond. They don't stay together on their own. The telomere holds them together. And when the telomere is compromised, so is the DNA. There's a domino effect. If something happens to the telomere, then something is going to happen to the DNA, and it's not good. It separates those nucleic bonds. That's damaged DNA. It'd be like losing software in a computer. So the more damage the telomere gets, the more DNA you're going to lose, the more software the cell is going to lose, till eventually the cell shuts down. Just like a computer, when it loses enough software, it will crash, and you can't even turn it on. That's the same thing with the human cell. When you lose enough DNA, it crashes. Only it's called senescence, and meaning death of the cell. So the shorter that telomere gets, the more damaged it is, the more problems you're going to have with your health because your cells are going to be malfunctioning. That's Nobel Prize winning research 2009. We just simplified it. When I was introduced to Bill Andrews, the geneticist, he had me at hello. I had never heard of a telomere. And neither did people when they invented processed food. They didn't know what a telomere was when they invented processed food. Processed foods have a lot of chemicals in them that do not serve the body. What we know today is that those chemicals that are in processed foods, put there on purpose, shorten your telomeres faster. They damage the telomeres faster. And pre-teenagers, their telomeres are 10 years shorter than they used to be. It's called accelerated telomere shortening. So that means they're going to have the problems with their health at much younger ages. And they are. They have osteoporosis now before they're even teenagers. Babies are born with type 2 diabetes. Why? Because those chemicals are getting to the baby while it's forming. And it's damaging the telomeres in the womb. It's why I think it was something like 1 in 4 babies have some kind of health challenge that are born. It's a telomere issue. Every health challenge that you have, all of the labels they put on things, from your toenails all the way up to your head and everything in between, is a telomere issue. It's linked. That's the Nobel Prize winning research. They've linked the telomere and the lack of telomere health in your body to every symptom of aging and every degenerative issue. Now, Bill Andrews, like many of us, believes that the body can heal itself, only he knew it on a much more profound level. He knew that the telomere, the chromosome, could heal itself through a gene that produces an enzyme called telomerase. You and I know that when we cut our skin, those cells start to do something, and we can kind of see it. And over time, it repairs. The skin cells do. The Band-Aids don't do it. The skin cells communicate. They heal themselves. That's called an innate ability to heal itself. Well, Bill knew that that gene could do it in the chromosome, only it wasn't. We were going the wrong way faster. It's the first generation of children that won't live as long as their parents because they're getting to senescence faster, so they're going to die of a degenerative disease younger. So Bill has spent his whole life doing this. He said, I'm going to cure aging or die trying. And he identified that gene that produces this enzyme in 1994. By 1997, him and his colleagues in his lab, where they invented the procedures, were able to activate that enzyme in a petri dish with human skin cells. Guess what happened? He was right. A lot of people ridiculed him, thought he was chasing, a rabbit down the wrong hole. No, he proved them wrong. He got Inventor of the Year runner-up for doing that in the petri dish with their processes. Only lab in the world that can do that. And then Harvard piggybacked off of that, and they did it in mice. And that changed everything. It changed the whole perspective on aging. You do not have to have all these degenerative issues. The body has the capacity to prevent them from even happening in the first place. So the issues that were caused by this, what the science now shows, when you reverse that damage, those issues go away. And they saw that happen with the mice. That's when they gave it the Nobel Prize. And that's why they featured Bill, 14-page article in Popular Science on Bill Andrews and his research that led up to this Nobel Prize. So here's me and Bill's published work, and they did it with mice, and this is what ABC News had to report on.
And now, eternal youth. Is it in a cage around the corner? News tonight of a breakthrough for some pioneering mice. But we always wonder, what does a fountain of youth for rodents reveal for humans? Here's Sharon Alfonsi reporting.
I feel tremendous.
In the movie Cocoon, it's a swimming pool that turns back the clock for a group of senior citizens. But now researchers have found a way not just to stop, but reverse the aging process. The key is something called a telomere. We all have them. They're the tips or caps of your chromosome, seen here in yellow. This is what it looks like in a young adult. But as you grow older, the telomeres become damaged and frayed, and as they stop working, we start aging, experiencing things like hearing and memory loss. Scientists took mice who were prematurely aged, added an enzyme, and essentially turned their telomeres back on. You can see it before the enzyme, after.
Their brain function improved, their fertility was restored. It was a remarkable reversal of the aging process.
Look at this picture. The mouse on the right has bad skin, gray hair, and is balding, but the one on the left had its telomeres flipped back on.
And you could see that essentially you now have a dark coat color, that the hair is restored, that the coat has a nice healthy sheen to it.
Even more dramatic, the change in brain size. This is before. The mice had 75% of a normal brain, like a patient with severe Alzheimer's. But after the telomeres were reactivated, the brain returns to normal size.
Man, to say that caught my attention is an understatement. That blew me away. And I read the papers that were published on these mice. They barely touched the tip of the iceberg in that news article. This is why it was given the Nobel Prize, because that's a living, breathing mammal, just like me and you, not skin cells in a petri dish, which is the work that Bill had done, which led to this. So critical, all these steps that had taken place. Now, their mental acuity, it was like severe Alzheimer's. They didn't have any ability to reason or recall memory, and they were failing the test miserably. But then they activated this enzyme, and what they saw is the DNA started repairing in all of the cells. What does that mean? This damaged DNA was being put back together. Just like software being restored in a computer that's having some problems. The computer works perfect. That's what they saw here with their brains. And not only that, the lean tissue. You can see how the brain got bigger. This is before, after. And so their cognitive ability was back. They can now pass the test with flying colors. Also, their bones and their muscle, the atrophy was reversed. Their bones grew back without changing their diet. There's a lot of people out there that are taking extra calcium because they have osteoporosis, yet that doesn't improve their bone density. It's not the calcium that's going to do it. It's the expression of the DNA. Whatever the expression of the DNA is going to be the expression of this physical cell. And they saw that. I mean, Nobel Prize winning for sure, right? So many other things too. Their cardiovascular system, the heart started ejecting faster and stronger, which means oxygen's now pumping through the body faster and getting there more effectively and reaching higher levels of oxygen to the organs. Their glucose levels leveled out, their skin, their hair, everything. They said it was a remarkable observation of the reversal of the aging process. Nobel Prize, it earned it. And it's the first time they learned that DNA could repair. The best that they could do up to this point was just slow down telomere shortening by staying away from the chemicals, the processed foods, smoking, drinking, stress, things like that. But this was a whole different perspective on aging and what we could do about it. And quite frankly, the body's internal capacity, innate capacity to heal itself. We are now learning the true miracle of the human body and what it's really capable of. And that's what we're pioneering. Even just with this information, I feel like we're pioneering it. Anybody want to share along the lines of the science, not the product, but...
Well, to say the least, I found that to be fascinating. So I went and looked for a clip from Bill Andrews, see if I could find his little clip. And here's a section of that.
Recently, we have discovered that the science of human aging is really pretty simple. We age because our cells divide and our telomeres get shorter. What's a telomere? Well, to answer that, let's zoom into a human's 100 trillion cells. Every cell contains a nucleus with genes and chromosomes. If you zoom in further, you see that the chromosomes are made up of DNA molecules that are 100 million bases long, coiled up like a slinky. There are long, repetitive sequences of DNA at the end of each of our chromosomes. These sequences are called telomeres. When a cell divides, the genetic material inside that cell needs to be copied. This is called DNA replication. During this process, enzymes that replicate a strand of DNA are unable to continue replicating all the way to the end, which causes the loss of some DNA. And the ends, if you remember, are where the telomeres are. At birth, we have about 10,000 bases. But as we age and our cells divide again and again, we lose those bases. And at 5,000 bases, we begin to die of old age. As telomeres get shorter, humans begin to experience the general effects of aging. Loss of muscle, failing memory, poor eyesight, lack of energy, and slower recovery after exercise. The bottom line is this: when cells divide, telomeres shorten. And bad things happen when telomeres get short.
I'm a living example of what happens when telomeres do that. Here's a little bit about what I was dealing with and what was going on with me. The doctors had told me that my cells were so damaged that there was not much that they could do. So that kind of left me standing. Nothing to stand on but sinking sand. If you've ever been in quicksand, then you have a good idea of what that's like. The biggest problem that they had is that they knew that the cells couldn't absorb nutrition, that the cells lost their capacity in order to reproduce, which means that the coating was damaged to the extent that there wasn't much that they could do. One doctor came out and told me right flat out that if I couldn't repair my DNA, then there was absolutely nothing that could control this or make this any better. He couldn't tell me of anything that he knew of that could help reconstruct or put the DNA back together again, or even how to help it do it. No mention of telomeres, no mention of what they were or how they would work. So this was absolutely new. Now there's hope where there wasn't any, and that's given my wife a lot of hope. So I want to thank Dave MacArthur for the film that he made. That video really inspired me. It really helped. I was able to talk to Dave after, well, let's see, about 3 weeks ago. and discussed what was going on with me. And he said that we should use what he would call the 4 pillars. Next Friday, I want to do a deal on protein, the different types of protein, what kinds of protein the body likes, what kinds of protein the body doesn't like, how to get the most out of your protein. There are some proteins that you can improve. Most proteins you can only use about 15 to 20%. There are other proteins that you can actually let stand at room temperature for 45 to an hour, and they will increase. You can get up to 90 to 95%, which is remarkable. Why take 15-20% when you could take 90%? So that's what I'm doing. That's helping me improve. I'll also show you the products that I'm using and why I'm using those products. I'm not a formulator. I tried that for 10 years. It didn't work. So now I've got access to some real experts, some people that I trust, that I know. I can rely on what they're doing. I can rely on their formulations. I can rely on their research. So why do anything else or go anywhere when you got something like that? I want to thank you for bearing with me. I'm just an amateur. I don't do videos for a living, nor do I do videos often. This is only the 4th one that I've been trying to put together here in the last week or two. Got myself a little bit of a video editing software, trying to learn how to use it. Learning curve is extremely sharp, so it's kind of hard to get all this together. But please put down in the comments anything that you could help me with or advise me with. Make it a little simpler for me to make these. Also, I'd like you to include anything that you would like to talk about, like to hear about. I'm going to be going into nutrition. I'm going to be going into foods that are good for you, foods that are bad for you. If you're out on the go and you've got to eat at a restaurant, the kind of foods that you should eat, kind of foods you should stay away from. That doesn't disclude a whole lot of good stuff. There's a lot of good food in there. Also, as I come across them, share some recipes with you, some things that might help. And if I can get into exercising and building up muscle, then we'll go from there, and I'll show you the products to use and how to use them in order to do that. Build your endurance, build your stamina, build muscle mass. I have a link down there where you can sign up for my email list, where I can send you some updates and let you know ahead of time of anything that I'm getting ready to put out. Also, you can reply. You can reply to me in that very same email system and make suggestions or put down anything that you would like to talk about. If you don't want to make it public down below, just go ahead and do that. Send me an email. Be more than happy to read it, and I would be more than happy to respond to you. Any suggestions that you could give, I will gladly receive. So you guys have a wonderful weekend, and God bless.